Yeah.
Could Kamui break through Gojo's Limitless? So the way Gojo's Limitless works is that there's this infinity amount of distance between him and his opponent, and the more you try to approach it, the more you just inevitably converge towards infinity, never truly reaching Gojo. So Kamui would never be able to hit Gojo. It's very, very abstract and complex to think about, but when you throw attacks at Gojo, they simply converge towards infinity, never truly reaching him. Um, it goes back to the idea of converging to an infinite value. You never do, So someone might try to argue, well, what if Kamui is within the limitless ability? Well, it seems that's not as far as what I know of Gojo, it seems that's not possible. You can't get within the limitless defense, the infinity limitless defense that he has. Um,
Hmm.
Unless that happened with Sukuna versus Gojo or something. I haven't read that, but currently, from what I know, there's no way to truly touch him. You'd have to catch him slipping when he has the defense off, and you just infinitely converge towards infinity. You never truly reach him. So I don't think Kamui would break through. It would just infinitely
Yeah.
converge towards him forever. So
I think Kamui works contingent upon the amount of chakra is influx into it.
yeah,
So, for example, Kakashi was trying to Kamui the Ghetto statue's head with, I believe, Kurama's chakra, which is a three times amp to his own reservoir. So, that being said, you need enough chakra to Kamui a certain object, right? Now, with Gojo's infinite domain expansion, you're trying to Kamui something that's infinite in nature.
yeah,
So, therefore, you would need at least an infinite amount of chakra to do so, in which Obito does not have.
exactly. Yeah,
So, it would just get absorbed and be distributed into the void, essentially. Yeah.
yeah. The best way to beat Gojo, from my current knowledge of him, is you'd have to outlast him. And apparently, he has preposterous amounts of cursed energy. He probably keep that defense on for who knows how long. I don't know how long he could possibly keep it on. And
True.
he also states that it takes minimal resources to keep it on. Like, it's almost subconscious. That's how easy it is to keep it on. So it basically takes almost nothing from him. It'd probably take a long, long time to outlast that guy. Um, if he could do it, maybe then the defense would dissipate, and then he's vulnerable, and then you could kill him. But I don't know, man. You have to quantify how much curse energy he has in relation to your own energy
Chakra.
property. Yeah, to your own
Yeah.
whether it's chakra, a key from another universe. If you have more than
Hmm.
he does, you might be able to outlast him. But from what I could tell, he has a ton of cursed energy, and the amount of energy that is utilized by the defense is minimal, according to him. Barely takes anything. Fraction, like a minuscule fraction of the power he has. Um,
If he's actually trying, then
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
So he's untouchable for the most part, unless I read further and Sukuna like finds an exploit or something. Yeah. Have you watched the JJK Zero movie? Yeah, I watched it. I thought it was pretty good. It's about Yuta. I think the main character's name, and apparently he's a pretty powerful sorcerer. I thought the movie was pretty good. I actually almost liked Yuta more than Yuji from JJK. It's pretty close. I like
Hmm.
them both pretty similarly. I thought the movie was pretty good. I liked the backstory, the fight
You
that
watch it on
Gojo had.
Crunchyroll or
Yeah, it's
where
on
do you watch it
Crunchyroll.
on?
Yeah,
Nice.
and
Okay.
the fight Gojo had was very good against. It was a cursed. I think it was a cursed spirit. It was a very good fight. He like slapped some cursed spirit around really
Hmm.
badly. It was actually really cool. Um,
Some lore for Gojo then, it seems
exactly.
like.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
super powerful,
that's
man.
awesome.
Like, he's a threat. Like, cursed spirits are wary of him. Like, they know that he's in this whole different tier of power. So, if Hoshirama actually killed himself, would Tobirama and the Senju keep their promise to stop fighting the Uchiha, and how would the series change? I feel like Madara is a man of his word. So I think he would keep that true to himself. I think he would.
It's hard to say,
But it is, yeah, it is hard to say.
honestly. He's just so like, radical in his beliefs and ideologies that he'll do anything
Yeah, I think
it takes to
Tobirama,
achieve his goals.
and regardless, I think Tobirama would hold resentment towards Madara for that event, and he might never forgive Madara for that. Try to kill him
Oh yeah,
himself.
no, definitely
Yeah,
not, bro. He'll kill
yeah,
himself fighting Madara for
yeah.
sure.
That's probably what happened. He'd die trying to kill Madara. Madara would beat him, kill him, and then
Unless
people
he
probably,
summons Edos,
yeah,
you
unless it
know.
summons Edos and they're not complete fodder, which they probably will be.
Oh yeah, they will be.
Yeah, then maybe then, but yeah, it'd be a tragic ending to how things would go. I find Utica more interesting than Yuji. Yeah, that's kind of what I've kind of analyzed as well when I watched the movie.
Hmm.
Not by much, but yeah. I wish the author would have stuck with him instead of Yuji for the main series. Yeah, Yuji's a little. I mean, he's cool. Not the best main character ever, but he's a little bland at times.
I agree, dude.
Yeah, he's a little bland.
Yeah.
I like
I
Gojo
like
more, to be honest, than
Asta
Yuji.
from Black Clover kind of gives me the same vibe too. They're just kind of like boring protagonists, in my
Yeah,
opinion. Like,
exactly.
yeah,
Just sort of bland. Uh,
it's like Itachi compared to Naruto in the beginning. It's like, I
exactly.
wonder who I like more. You
Yeah,
know?
exactly. They're just a
Yeah.
little bland to me. JJK is really good, but the writing certainly isn't on the level of like Naruto or anything. But it's good, regardless. Yeah.
Mhm.
What do people say Kabuto blitzed Itachi when he was under his feet and you couldn't see him? In fact, Itachi was tagging Kabuto and didn't know Itachi was making shadow clones. It was a competitive fight. Certainly back and
I
forth.
was holding back. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were both holding back. Itachi definitely was holding back. Kabuto didn't want to kill Sasuke. I would say there is some arbitrary level of relativity between the two. I'd say that at least. Um, yeah,
Even though Itachi just he handled that fight so fast, dude. Like
that's
he
true.
was underneath the
Yeah,
Izanami for so long before he even realized it. Like,
yeah.
yeah, it was very relative in terms of like tangible stats, but the hacks abilities
Hacks is
what
broken.
really,
The only, I
yeah,
guess,
hacks are broken.
the only
Yeah.
hacks that would be problematic to him one on one would be the raging dragon, but
Oh yeah,
yeah,
and the Genjutsu,
and the
dude, because he
Genjutsu.
needed Sasuke. Yeah,
Exactly, the Genjutsu
exactly.
was so problematic that he couldn't even break himself out. He needed Sasuke, so yeah, they're definitely relative. I'd say to some arbitrary extent, at least.
And dude, that Tosca does not give a fuck about regeneration. Your
Oh
ass is
shit, no,
sealed,
no.
bro.
If he hits you with that, you're
Yeah,
done. Yeah, if he's able to hit
you're
Kabuto
done,
with
kid.
that, it's over. Yeah, no, it's not gonna end well for him. But yeah, folks, feel free to keep asking questions. We got a couple more pre-established questions. This one's interesting. It's a power scaling question, and it's kind of a loaded question. Someone asked, "What do you think about concepts in power scaling, and where would scaling above a concept scale a character?" This has been a topic that's been bugging me. What do you think about it? So, to answer this, the term first of all, the term concept is a versatile term, meaning this is a broad question. The specific concept in question could change the answer to this question. Essentially, if a character hypothetically is able to manipulate and or destroy an independent universal concept, which is basically one that is independent from the reality it governs, and they scale above that hypothetical concept, that's all that would mean. They wouldn't scale any higher than that concept. And again, the term concept is very vague. But conversely, if a hypothetical character can manipulate and or destroy dependent concept which are concepts that are abstract and govern all reality within their area of influence, not only would they scale above that concept, but they would also scale above the reality that is molded by the concept in question. So it's all very, very complex, obviously, from the explanation. So some examples to make it more concise is imagine comparing someone that has the ability to manipulate time, the concept of time, and someone having the power to manipulate the concept of something like the color of a wall, right? The former would allow you to greatly affect the universe at large, having manipulation over an entire temporal dimension, while the other would just give you a
Mhm.
neat ability. You could just change the color of a wall. You can't really do much with that. So yeah, you transcend wall colors. What does that mean, power scaling wise? Really nothing. In the vast majority of instances. While conversely, if you are able to manipulate the concept of time, I mean, the universe is your oyster. You go back in time, forward in time. You can literally change history. You can literally write history the way you want it based off your ability to manipulate or destroy time. So what this illustrates is the discrepancies in power from concept to concept, and how this term concept is a very broad term to utilize. Um, it's quite complex, so really you got to triangulate what concept you're talking about here to answer the question of where you would scale from specific case to specific case, essentially.
Mhm.
If you're able to manipulate time, I mean, you transcend an entire dimension. But while conversely, again, if you're able to manipulate something like the color of a wall, you don't scale very high at all in comparison to most people. So
Yeah, it's a trivial ability, right?
yeah,
In
it's very
comparison.
trivial. So
And even the concept of time is it's just that. It's just a concept. There's no like literal
yeah,
tangible evidence of time. It's just a concept that
exactly. Yep.
helps us govern our reality. But like if we're talking like power scaling, like let's say like someone's universal, right?
Yeah.
As we know in our own universe, our universe is constantly expanding. And so every day that universe grows in size. So when you say someone's universal, is it the universal today or tomorrow or
Yeah,
the day after
exactly.
that?
It's ever
That's very
expanding.
vague, right?
Yeah,
So basically universal is like being able to create or destroy an infinite amount of finite spaces within one's own universe.
yeah,
But if the universe is constantly expanding, then that concept has a variable into it, right?
yeah,
So if you want to get down to the nitty gritty of power scaling, you have to come to a consensus over the AP of what universal is, or even something like boundless or hyperdimensional or something like that, right? It's all vague and conceptual by its fundamental basis.
exactly.
So
Yeah,
yeah, it's it can become a philosophical discussion more as opposed to like a power scaling one because of the conceptual ambiguity behind it.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but yeah, it's very vague. I don't blame you for having like a question about this. It's a very valid one for sure, and it's essentially just conceptual.
Yeah,
And if you're going to have a debate about it, specifically about power scaling, there needs to be a consensus over to what these terms mean in general. So
exactly. Yeah. So
yeah,
once you get to these very vague and ambiguous parts of power scaling, essentially the ones where you start talking about universal plus levels of power, and you talk about literal terms that represent an infinite possibility of cases, like concepts and things like that. To even have a discussion that's fruitful, you're going to have to come to some consensus with the person you're discussing on what's going to be presupposed, such as what does omniversal mean, how do we measure it, things like that, depending on what's being discussed specifically. That's where it
yeah,
starts to get messy. Most people don't even want to sort of delve into that world of complexity in the first place. How to implement a fruitful discussion in the first place is challenging. Um, and to answer questions like that is a challenging thing to do because you're dealing with infinite cases and you're dealing with infinity, you're dealing with terms and concepts that are still not understood, so it gets very, very messy very quickly. And I would say,
very quickly, man.
yeah,
Yeah,
try to stay concise with what you're asking and what you're talking about. That way you don't get messed up, which can happen very easily when you're talking about things that are so abstract. So, like I said, scaling over a concept is extremely vague and arbitrary from case to case. So,